Welcome back to Talos Principle 2. I'm dear darling, and why are we here? What truth awaits us? Why do we answer more of these questions together with, well, I suppose we can ask them to Miltonheim, if anything. Now we seem to be tackling the larger questions of a simulation and
whole. The machine
whole.
we're plugged into is running low on power. There may only be time for one big question.
Okay.
What is your query?
We're going to make it count then. Should our people embrace growth or balance? I don't care about that. What is the meaning of life? Too vague. Is there a universal moral law, and if so, what is it? No. What do I really want? How can I get it? That's not a question for you. How can I become my best self? Is it possible to ask something less cliche? Jeez. These are all not great questions, I feel like. Okay, so, should our people embrace growth or balance? It's not something I care to ask. Nor the last one. It's obviously a joke answer question. How can I become my best self is the interesting one. What's the meaning of life is also interesting, but I feel like you might give a very unfulfilling answer. Because at least from my perspective, the meaning of life is whatever you make of it at the end of the day. There is no inherent, there's no inherent underlying meaning that life is given. Is there a universal moral law? And if so, what is it? I think that's the one I'll ask. That seems the most interesting to me, because even if the answer being no is not anything crazy, but the answer of most of these is not anything I feel like I can garner from you. But the answer to this being yes has interesting implications.
Oh, just that, huh? The big one. As it turns out, there is a foundational moral code built into us.
Interesting. Please go on.
The catch is that while the moral code is simple, the calculations needed to apply it become infinitely complex.
Right. But what is its code?
Here's the secret. Every living creature is a compiler of the moral code.
Okay.
Your compiler can't give you a rule set for what's good, but it can tell you when there's bugs.
So it can tell you when something's gone wrong rather than when something is going right. I'm still waiting. Could you elaborate just a little more?
You came here to ask the big question. This is my answer.
Fair enough.
Your capacity for reason and compassion is your moral compiler. The only rule is to live by it. Has that resolved your query?
Honestly, that's a pretty good answer as things go. So your capacity to have compassion and is your moral compiler. So the moral code is the fact that that we can be compassionate, we can be reasonable. But as I understand it, you're basically saying that the judgment called for it is difficult to apply, and it can't give you a set of rules to live by. It can only tell you when things fall outside of it. It's basically what I'm understanding that as, which is interesting because that seems to imply that things aren't necessarily universal, right? Everything's compiled of a moral code, but it doesn't necessarily mean compiling in the same way, right? Every living creature is a compiler of moral code, which is also interesting that every living creature is a compiler of moral code. So everything which lives has a sense of right and wrong, but impossible for any of them to understand a rule set of which to live by, even the most simple of organisms. Yes, I'm ready to go back where I came from. Yes, but I want to discuss this further. No. What did you ask me? Has that resolved your question? Yes, but I want to discuss this further, but we can't.
I expected no less. What is your query?
Wait, what? Surely rules of human rights or the greater good triumph subject to compassion. If we're built with moral compilers, how do you explain moral disagreement? Well, okay, that one I just answered for myself, because moral compilers aren't necessarily the same, right? Isn't this all just a fancy way of saying being kind to others? How should we know we're being reasonable and compassionate in the right way? If compassion is what matters, isn't that just relativism? Let's apply this code. Should we treat frogs as morally equal to humans? Why does the moral code of yours derive its authority? Why should I care? Okay, this is a bit negative. This is interesting at the same time, despite the fact it seems like a joke. Surely rules of human rights or the greater good trump subjective compassion. Interesting. I feel like you might answer something along the lines of that's all built into the moral code in the first place, including the times things triumph and things that don't. But of course, it's not a list anywhere of all these different conditions. For built moral compilers, how do you explain moral disagreement? And this, I think, is like maybe different rule set evaluations, or different evaluations for what things that fall into a general moral thing. Because people are subjected to their own experiences and lives, and thus can evaluate things in different ways. And people, you know, something which could be generally good for most people can also be pretty bad for someone else, right? That's just subject to human experience and life. Isn't this all a fancy way of saying being kind to others is not really an enlightening question? How shall we know we're being reasonable and compassionate in the right way? Is there a right way? Maybe it doesn't matter if you're doing it in the right way. That's probably my take on that. And if compassion is what matters, isn't this just relativism? I don't know what relativism is. Define relativism. The doctrine that truth and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and not absolute. And then he'll probably just be like, yes, it is. Should we treat frogs as morally equal to humans? From our perspective, I guess no, because we're human, but from frogs' perspective, they treat frogs as probably more morally equal than humans, or morally superior even. But in a grand scheme, I suppose the universe doesn't care. Oh, this is like, I'm not sure which one I want to ask. Let's see your perspective on disagreements.
Moral disagreement comes in two shapes: mistaken and extra mistaken.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Some of the
take.
time, people are acting from compassion, but with bad reasoning. But
Why are
most
you
of the
moving
time,
so much as
it's
well?
because someone thinks that what's right for them must be right for everyone else.
Okay, so every time there's moral disagreement, you say that's always a mistake. But what's right for me is what's right for everyone. No, I don't buy any of this. I agree. We have to trust our own moral compilers even if they give different answers. But how can I know my decision is the right one? You don't, and that's the point. Okay, I'm interested to see what your response is to this way.
Then let's tackle the big question. A trolley will collide with someone. But who should it hit? Your compiler is telling you both options are bad. So which should you choose? Many moral questions have universally agreeable answers.
But many
But
don't.
some stubbornly trend to infinity.
Trend to infinity is a
Some,
weird way to phrase that.
The more you zoom into them, the more wild the outcomes become. Is it right to love someone who's done terrible things? Which of the children should I sacrifice to the trolley god? These aren't the sorts of questions we can solve with a rule.
I agree.
We just
I
have
agree.
to trust the outcome of our moral compilers.
Which is, I guess, all we can really do. Do you have some kind of metaphor that can help me understand this? I just want to keep talking to you.
Suppose there's a river we need to cross.
Sure.
Suppose I gave you a map.
Okay.
If you tried to cross that river before reading the map, you'd be chest deep in water when there's a bridge around the bend.
Yes.
But if you tried to cross by looking at the map instead of the river, you'd already be dragged 3 miles out to sea. But you'd never ask, how should I know when to trust the map or the river? Because all you need to trust is that your feet are getting wet. And you wouldn't tell people not to cross at the ford just because you decided to cross at the bridge. Now, has that resolved your query?
I mean, it was already resolved before, but I do understand. I think we're broadly in agreement.
Of course. Looks like we're running out of power.
That does make sense. You are my subconscious
Good
or
luck
something.
getting anyone out there to believe you.
Okay, fair enough.
Terminating Somnodrome _V2_final_final.bat.
Do you have a number? No. I do like the Tetronomy belt you're wearing. Absolutely haunting visage. Hello?
1K, are you all right?
Yeah. No. I mean, no, but I think I might be a bit. I think so.
You must have gone quite deep. Nothing came through on the stream. And I'm no expert, but I think the Somnodrome is fried.
It was a
So
one-time
whatever's in
thing.
your head is all we're going to get.
Interesting.
I can only imagine how terribly curious everyone will be about what you've experienced. And they'll all be convinced that whatever it is, it'll work in their favor. Strange, isn't it? Everyone wanting you to tell them whatever they want to hear.
I think that's quite normal
I'm
human
glad
experience.
not to be the one in that position just this once.
I understand the difficulty that comes with your job, What should I do? I need to think about this. Aren't you curious too?
A little, if I'm honest. But I'll be reading reports on this for the next 6 months. So if
enough.
it's all the same with you, I'll contain my curiosity.
That's fair.
Now, I won't keep you from your work any longer.
Interesting. We basically had like a divine chat with, not really God, but an equivalency of it. Oh. Is this duplication? Interesting, so I guess that's the next mechanic, will be some sort of duplicator. The door's open now. Noma Project 12. Cornelius would be so excited. Test confirm underlying patterns. Auxiliary site shut down. Misanthropy. You asked me about the persistent strain of misanthropy in human culture. It's a complicated topic that has come up multiple times in my research. Here's my attempt at a short, cohesive answer. I think our ancestors, like ourselves, were deeply invested in the idea of transforming their environment. They found meaning and pleasure in this, and did not perceive it as a negative. So long as they had a sense of participating in this act, I think the reason that they so frequently reached for romantic return to the past, to fantasies of living self-sufficiently in rural environments, is not because they rejected industrial-scale activity per se, but because return to the land provided a fantasy of returning to a form of participation that had been lost. They needed and wanted to build, create and produce, but only if they felt that they had a stake in what they were producing. Without that, the products of civilization began to seem like an alien force, it gradually spreading out across the world and ruining it. They needed a dream, and if the future was part of them, then by necessity, they must dream of a past. I hope you and Cornelius are well. Will you be coming to Hypatia's new exhibition? I know you have much on your mind, but you are missing out on a lot of exciting new cultural developments. Who could have thought, in those early days, that one day there would be so many of us that the arts would start to flourish again? Much love, Benoria. I went back and found this message after all these years, because something about it had lodged in my mind. Wasn't ready to understand it back then, because I needed to be a leader, but maybe that was a problem. Should have been our dream, not mine alone. Interesting. Very sweet message, if anything. How Atlas cast off a world. From Atlas Variations by Athanasios. For a billion years, Atlas has borne the weight of a world on his back. The old Titan, let me speak properly, was tired of responsibility and tired of his labour of ages not being appreciated. Why did the mortals not understand that his work was the foundation of all they did? Finally, he had had enough. With one swift move, he shrugged off the cosmos. Now 80. But the cosmos went on rolling through infinity, leaving Atlas behind. The mortals went about their business, hardly noticing his absence. And he was astonished. Had the world never needed him in the first place? Had all his toil been for nothing? So he's turned his back on all mortal matters, and instead set himself to discovering the secrets of eternity. Only after many long years had passed did the cosmos, in its endless cycles, pass by through his domain once more. And only then did Atlas and the mortals realise that they had missed each other, and each was lesser without the other. And so Atlas no longer carried the cosmos. Instead, he embraced it. Is this meant to be a metaphorical representation of Athena? Which is interesting. Oh, what? Okay, why is there some sort of weird blue fuzziness here? Like it doesn't exist until I look at it. Weird. I still don't really know what the Noma project is, to BH. But I guess we'll go back to, as said, solving puzzles. Oh, hello. Helga?
1K, I'm so curious.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see inside the Somnodrome?
I went to sleep mode and spoke to something.
What did it tell you?
To act with reason and compassion. To trust my moral compiler that we should act as relative to who we are, that we can achieve almost anything if we have faith in ourselves. Morality is more nuanced than rules we used to describe it. Connect it intuitively to what's right and wrong. Moralistic nonsense mostly, I don't remember. Yeah, sure.
That is so funny.
I'm trying to have more fun. was more confusing and funny, yes, haha. I'll have you know that moral truth is no laughing matter. Trying to have more fun, why not?
There are so many people who try to play the power game. That data packet in your head just made you the most powerful person in all New Jerusalem.
And now I have to
By
kill
accident. It is kind of funny.
you.
I mean,
That would be crazy if
what are
that
you
we
going
did.
to do?
I guess I'll just be the most powerful
government will
person.
want you to pretend like nothing happened.
And I'm not going
The
to.
engineers will want you to tell everyone. Whatever you do, you're going to upset someone. If
Of course.
someone ever needed some clear moral guidance, they couldn't have needed it more than you do right now.
No, I already know what I'm doing. I'm going to go with my instincts on this. I'm going to trust my moral compiler on this. I know if I think hard enough I'll come to a rational conclusion. I'm sure I can find a way to keep everyone happy, but that's not really my goal. You're right, I have no idea what to do. What would you do in my situation? I'm going to trust my moral compiler on this.
I'm glad to hear it. And I can't wait to find out what you do next.
Right, it seems like we're going into some
Cryer is
decisions which would
setting up
actually...
a live event so you can
Oh,
give
okay.
a fancy address to the city en masse.
Wow, okay.
When you're ready, we'll all be watching.
So this is very much, I assume, getting into a point where Talos Principle, where I'm making the decisions which I have to stick to, you know? The same way with, like, Milton's one. Like, when related conversations where, like, you had to address things or not.
1K. The people want to know what data you gathered from the Somnodrome. We're all set up for you to talk to them live.
I didn't realise it was just now. I'm ready. We'll do it. We'll just send it.
Attention, citizens of New Jerusalem. I'm here with 1K, the first of our kind to use a functioning Somnodrome.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, 1K, what did you see inside?
What options am I going to be given? Bugs mostly, a deity, my own self, some kind of subroutine, everything, nothing, a dream, a manifestation of a conceptual system. That's probably the most accurate.
Well, I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say you're handling it with remarkable cool. But let's not keep people in suspense. The only evidence of what happened inside that machine is the data stored in your memory banks. Our audience wants to know,
Why
what
do you
did
keep
learn?
holding the mic to me and then
And
bringing
will
it
you
back?
share that data?
Of course I'll share it. I don't have much, there's no data to share. The machine was malfunctioning, data is useless. I've been advised to direct all inquiries means to the government. I'm transmitting the data to Rand. Only our finest scholars to make sense of what I'm transmitting the data to everyone. That's what I would do. I've decided this experience is mine anyway. I'm trying to tell her to see what she does, to see what she does with it. To Linux, only our finest engineers. Everyone
I'm
deserves to
seeing
know.
this at the same time you are at home. Something about our moral compiler.
Man, how many voice lines did we have to
The
record for
value
this?
of compassion and understanding. I don't know what to make of this. 1K, any comment?
The data has some important truths to teach us. People should draw their own conclusions on what this means. I think the data is misleading. We shouldn't take it at face value. Oh, definitely not 3, 1 or 2. People should draw their own conclusions, I think is what it means. It's kind of like this whole point of free will, sort of intertwined within this. If the whole message, I suppose, in the end of the day, is that we actually do have this intrinsic idea of morals, of right and wrong, but intrinsically, the way that society functions is by everyone not trusting their own instincts, but if we allow people to come up with their own opinions and then deciding from that source to pool, is how decisions should be made in a society, right? Okay, democratically, I suppose. But people should draw their own conclusion on what this means. Is that literally what I mean? Does that apply to moral laws? I guess it does. Because, I mean, in this world, who knows if it applies to our real world or not, definitively, for sure, there is a moral law, a moral code, which we are all intertwined with, innately. So that means, through the perspective of everyone else's lenses, warping together to run through their own compiler, every single one of these opinions is incredibly valuable.
1K is right. When our ancestors discovered conductance, they didn't freeze for fear of electrocution. They imagined electronic
Why are you on this
life
live stream?
and created us. We will
This is my
approach
live
this
stream.
data and any other discoveries with that same spirit of curiosity and objectivity.
Just time to hear from a special guest commentator.
Okay.
Yes. 1K's chosen to roll the dice and trust people with the outcome.
Why? I don't see why
for
I trust one person
can't wait
more than
to see
anyone
what
else, to be
happens
honest.
next.
I'm not
There you have it, folks.
evaluating someone
A
else's
lot
moral
here to
fibre over my
digest.
own.
We'll have further updates on the situation as it develops.
It's a moral fibre of this entire society coming together. What a fascinating This game is really kicking up now. Away from just the puzzles, and now it's really kicking into overgear, the philosophical aspect of it. I wonder what other people chose. I guess it kind of depends on what you asked. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Talos Principal 2, and I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.